Hello. And last week we began a very exciting journey in R, and it was our first week actually. So we did the introduction of R and RStudio. We looked at the interface and a few things that were with R. We also installed the R application. It's also important to mention that even though there are applications you can install online, you can install to your PC. There are online applications that just require the web. So you don't need to install on your PC, or if you need to do a quick fix something or you need to test your code somewhere, then maybe you can just go type in an R online compiler. We usually call them compilers because a compiler is more like a software that converts your programming language into a machine code that the machine understands to run. So once you type online R compiler, you have a couple of them, one from programmers, one from one compiler, one from my compiler. The ones I have tested and can attest to is programmers and R compiler. And it's important, I need to mention this because sometimes you get yourself on a PC that doesn't have R installed on the PC. So let's say maybe your boss called you, come and fix something on my PC. And you need to test some code on R and it doesn't have the software installed. That is when you can rely on some of these apps, online apps, to make your work easy. So once we get there, now remember that the code you test there cannot be saved. So everything you do, let's say after your work, it all goes away. Okay. So it's important to bear that in mind that after whatever code you write, you can't save it. That's with the online. But when you're doing it on a computer, it means that you can save the code, which helps. So let's test this. Um, for example, so this is R. I'm coming to write a short code in R. Let's say we have a variable X. This is just for testing purposes. We have a variable S. We set a sequence to it. The sequence runs from maybe minus pi. Minus pi is like minus 3.147, then to 45, then with a 0.2 stops. Okay, so that's the value for X. Then we come here and say plot, I want to test it, plot X against cos X. Now, when I run this, let's run this and see. So cos plus anonymous. Sometimes you have issues because cannot open file R plot. So you see, okay. So it cannot open. But this same code, let's go to maybe another compiler and see if it works. Okay, here. This is another compiler, that is mycompiler.io. So with the same code, if I run it, if I run that same code here and say run, the output will show here. So that's the output. So it means that my code I wrote was not wrong. It outputted well. However, on the other side, it wasn't working because they didn't have rplots.pdf or the plot graphical library installed on their. So this is one of the things you should. It's not perfect. It's still developing out there, but it can do simple code stuff. Like let's say x is equal to 34 and print x. So when we run that uh, execution set, it's able to run that. Let's say I give it another code saying for x in a range of 1 to 10, print, or let's say, yeah, print, or let's say concatenate, cat, at this point, the value of x is x, and then move to the next line. We introduce this escape character. What I want to do is I want to test if it can give me the output of it enlists the range of numbers from 1 to 10. So that's it. At this point, the value of x is 1, then it loops again. This is what we call a for loop, doing something repeatedly in programming. So sometimes these code, they can run in such platforms. Other times too, those platforms don't have what it takes to run certain codes. So um, it's important to be mindful of this, that even though online editors exist, they don't have the full capabilities. And if you install it on your computer, you get much more from them. So examples are the R1 compiler, R online compiler. You can also have this, and you can have the W3 schools, which I also recommend. It's a very good compiler. I think it can do a lot of stuff. So it's worth mentioning. However, that's not the point. So last week we had the opportunity to install RStudio. If you haven't done that, maybe you can go and look at last week's video and then check it out. This week we are going to do more interesting stuff. And so stick with me and we'll get there.